I have finished my mini-mester, and just one piece of advice, don't ever take a mini-mester, but if you have to take a mini-mester, go ahead and do public speaking, because the work isn't hard, there's just a lot of it. So it's a lot of busy work, very time consuming, but you're not totally dying. All that aside, here's a little snippet of me at the end of my final speech.
Oh. Is that gonna be on there?
No, I'm gonna edit that out. Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I am doing my December wrap-up and January TBR. It feels a bit odd to do it because I'm doing it after I've done my year wrap-up, and it just seems a bit late and almost like I don't need to, but also I haven't talked about every book in it technically, so I'm going to. It's just, it feels weird to be doing it, to be honest. Like, it feels out of place. I read 8 books in December, which you already know if you watched my year wrap-up. But the first book I read was High Society by Ali Carter. This was a reread. This is the first book in the High Society trilogy. It follows Kat Bishop, and she is going to a boarding school because she wanted to get out of her family's thieving life. But then she gets sucked back in when her father is being blamed for some paintings he didn't steal, and the only way to keep him safe is to find them and steal them back. It is a fantastic book, just so good. I love Ali Carter's characters. W.W. Hale the Fifth is my book boyfriend. Like, honestly, he is so caring and compassionate and just sweet to Kat, even when Kat gets a bit testy at times. And I love it. And her plots are just fun and engaging. All of the characters are their own unique and very entertaining people. Highly recommend any Ali Carter book, but my favorite series by far is The High Society, and this reread didn't change it at all. The reason I reread it is I was just needing something fun and lighthearted to read, and I noticed that I could get it free on my Kindle, so I got it free on my Kindle, and so now I have it on my Kindle, and I can reread it whenever I want to. The second book I read in December was Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Kahn. This book is about Dash and Lily. Basically, there is a notebook left in the Strand bookstore in New York, and Dash finds it, and it takes him on this little scavenger hunt throughout the store, finding books while he answers questions. And then he and Lily start, like, communicating / leaving dares and, like, things they have to do before they can leave the notebook somewhere else. But they communicate through the notebook. And it was okay. It kind of made me feel like I was too old for young adult. I couldn't get behind Dash and Lily. I loved the premise. The plot itself was entertaining and fun, but I did not like Lily. She just felt very childish, very naive. I don't know, I just didn't like Lily. And then Dash was very, very pretentious in a way that I just couldn't enjoy. So I didn't feel any connections with the characters, and it felt like I didn't feel those connections with them because of their ages. And so that made me feel old. I'm not old. I know that. It just, I couldn't get behind them. I didn't really care. Again, I thought the plot was entertaining. I loved the premise, but I couldn't get into it. I just couldn't get into it. Everything just felt so cliche and stupid. It was weird. It was a weird sensation because it made me feel old. I know I'm not old, guys. Don't worry. I know that. It was weird. So yeah, it was disappointing. I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting from it. Just to enjoy it, I guess. I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 stars because, like I said, it was never awful, but did I love it? No. There's a sequel. I considered reading the sequel. I decided not to read the sequel, so that's where we are with that. Next book I read was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This book is about Kath, and she writes fan fiction for this Harry Potter-esque type book, which I found interesting because they mention Harry Potter in the book, so it's not like this is the Harry Potter of their world. It's like this is another Harry Potter in their world. Didn't realize that. Pretty interesting. But anyway, she and her twin sister are going off to college, and her twin sister is like, hey, I want to live with someone else for a change. And Kath is like, what? So she ends up having to get a roommate who she doesn't know, and she's a very anxious person, so it's all like, eh. And she meets her roommate's friend Levi, and then there's like all these things that happen, and yeah. This is a book that I feel like if I had read this freshman year, it would have been like an all-time favorite. Because some of the stuff that she is just so anxious about and so worried about is stuff that I was anxious and worried about in freshman year, so I could relate to that so much. I will say, I think I also could have loved it more this time if I had let myself relate to it more. I was reading it during finals and it's like, I don't need a book that just like sucks my feelings in, and I could tell this one could come one, so I kind of on purpose kept a distance from the book. Does that make sense? Like, I didn't let myself feel like, oh my goodness, this is me. So I also think if I had just like let that happen, it would have been higher on my scale. For now, it's just a book that I highly enjoyed and I recommend, but it's not a favorite. But I feel like if I had just done stuff differently when I read it, or if I had read it freshman year, it would have been a favorite. Kath was very annoying at sometimes, but then so was Rin. And so was just basically everybody. All the characters annoy me at sometimes. But there would just be these little nuggets that they would do that would just be either relatable or understandable. And I'd be like, yeah, I like this. This is nice. This is great. So it was kind of an interesting book to read because it has that potential for me, but it's not there. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm making sense with this. Basically, did I relate to the whole book? No, but there were enough little like niblets in there that it was like, ooh, I like this. So would I recommend it? Yes, I think it's fantastic, especially if you're a freshman or going to be a freshman in college. You can read it after like, you know, your first month or so in the dorm. And if you're an anxious person, you might be like, oh my goodness, this is me. So I recommend it. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was good. The next book I have is Out of Sight, Out of Time by Ali Carter. This is the 5th book in the Gallagher Girls series. This is also my favorite book in the Gallagher Girls series. The Gallagher Girls series is a 6-book series that follows Cammie Morgan. She is a Gallagher girl. Her mother is actually the headmistress. And the Gallagher Girl Academy is a school for girls who are training to become spies. Pretty cool. And it follows them along, and there's this whole plot line that is kind of just thread throughout the series. The first 2 books are good, but once you get to the 3rd book and from then on, it is great. And in this book, I obviously can't tell you what happens, but it is the most intense book of the series, I would say, and it is my favorite of the series. I loved it. I loved the characters. There's a scene in this book that has never, like, gotten to me before, but this time it did. So, like, even after my 4th time, maybe 5th time rereading this, it still makes me feel all the feels, so it's a sign of a good book, guys. Highly suggest anything by Ali Carter. They're just fantastic. And speaking of Ali Carter, the next book I read was Uncommon Criminals by Ali Carter. This is the 2nd book in the High Society series. Follows the same people. They have to steal back an emerald. I'm not gonna spoil it, but yeah. Again, love the characters. Just fantastic. Her plots are just so much fun. I love Ali Carter. I love her books. They're fantastic. If you haven't read any of them, I highly recommend them. Next, we have I Work at a Public Library by Gina Sheridan. Gina Sheridan is a librarian. She actually has a Tumblr called I Work at a Public Library where she posts just little conversations she has with patrons or that she overhears from patrons. And then this is just a publication of some of those. And it was fantastic. As I mentioned in my year wrap-up, I actually work at a public library, so this was also very relatable for me. And if you ever want to find out a little bit what it's like to work at a public library, this gives you a little bit of insight. It's a bit strange sometimes. That's just the best way to describe it. Sometimes you get requests and you're like, okay. For example, I once had a man call who lived in Michigan. He was like, I need help finding this like specific AutoZone in Michigan. And after a while of trying to figure it out, I was like, sir, you do realize that I'm in Texas, right? We once had a lady come in and she said, there's this billboard. If I'm driving here, it's like the 3rd one on the left. What's the number on that billboard? And we're like, ma'am, we can't get in a car and drive out and find that billboard for you. I'm so sorry, but no. You get a lot of interesting requests at a library, and this book was just so much fun. So relatable. Highly enjoyed it. Highly recommend. The next book I read is one that caught me completely by surprise. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, and that was The Thief by Megan Wallen Turner. This is the 1st book in the Queen's Thief series, and it follows this thief named Jen, or Genius. I don't know how to pronounce his like full name, so we'll just call him Jin. And he is locked up in the King of Suinos. I don't know how to pronounce any of the names in this book, so just bear with me. But he's locked up in the king's prison because he said he was going to steal the king's seal, and then the Magus, I keep wanting to say Magnus, but it's not Magnus, it's Magus, of the king, which is like his advisor, takes him out and says, okay, you're gonna help me steal this queen's gift. And it's like this sacred item, and if we have it, then we control that queen of that country, and we can take over and make her marry our king. And he's like, what choice do I have? And so he goes along this trek, and they try and steal this gift, and it is so good. Oh my gosh, I was in shock. I did only give this a 4 stars because for a little bit it was like, okay, like this is good. There's nothing that I am not enjoying about this, but I'm not feeling that hook that like, yes, this is like a favorite. But then we'll say about here, something happens and I read that scene like 3 times. It was beautiful. And then it just, from there on, it was fantastic. Her plots, okay, her world as well. Her plots are so intricate and so well thought out. And her world, it sounds like it could be real. The amount of thought she has put into her belief system of all these different countries and to the lore of all these different countries is fantastic. On the treks, they'd sometimes tell stories of like their gods and stuff, and it would sound like the myths you hear of like the Greek gods and the Egyptian gods. Like it sounds real, but it also sounds like it's its own thing. Like she's not just copying stories from other mythologies. Like it sounds like a new one. Like a different one. So well thought out. I love Jen. He's so witty, but so natural, and he complains, but in a way that you're like, yes, you can complain about that. Like, that makes sense. And he's just so, you can't really say relatable, because like, there's nothing about his situation that I can technically relate to. But you're always rooting for him. He's so much fun. And I love him so much. And just like, once you get to the end, once you get to that one scene, you're like, the love for him just spikes. And it'll never come back down again. Just so you know, once you hit that point, your love for him is forever. Loved this book. I don't know if you can tell, but it was fantastic. I'm not going to talk about the second book because I read it in January, so I can't yet, but just know it somehow managed to top that one. And the last book I read in December, I read because I wanted to have 70 books instead of just 69, so I picked up a graphic novel. Also, I was checking in books at the library and I picked it up and it looked cool. So I checked it in and then checked it out to myself, which fun fact is something I do quite a bit. People bring in books, I either take a picture of it or quickly add it on GOODREADS or just check it in and check it out. Yeah, it makes my TBR pile just skyrocket. It's a bit of a problem. Just a bit. But that graphic novel is The City on the Other Side by Marguerite Scott. This is about a girl who, I don't actually know what city she lives in, but she lives in a city with her mom, and her mom's very pristine, and then she goes to live with her father for a little bit, and her father lives in like this little house in the woods, and she thinks that everyone just kind of ignores her. So she ends up in this opposite world. She passes the veil and ends up in this like fairy world. And she finds this messenger who's dying, who's trying to get this necklace to the fairy queen so she can like defeat the evil one and stop this war that's going on. And the messenger charges the girl, whose name I don't remember, charges the girl with getting that necklace to the rightful owner, because the necklace kind of seems to be responding to her. And yeah, it's about that, and they meet this other kid, and it's like this whole thing, and it was good. It was slow. The first bit, I almost just like put it down. I was like, no, I'll just have 69 books, because it sounded very childish, but it's to be expected because it is a junior book, like a middle grade graphic novel, and not like a, you know, young adult or adult graphic novel. So like, it's fine that it sounded like that, but then it picked up and it was good. So did I love it? No. But the art was really pretty. That's kind of what caught my eye. It made me think of the art in Lumberjanes, which is why it caught my eye in the first place. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, and it was a nice book to kind of round off the year and give me 70 books, which I greatly enjoyed. Am I gonna gush about it? No. Will it probably be one of those books that I low-key forget that I've read until I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I did read that. Maybe. But did I enjoy it in the moment? Yes. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of December for a January TBR. Since we're already, you know, nearing the middle of January, and since I've already read 2 books, I don't know what my TBR is. I am currently reading The King of Atolia, which is the 3rd book in the Queen's Thief series. I'm not loving this one as much as I loved The Queen of Atolia. That book almost killed me. But this one is so fantastic so far. Highly recommend. After that, oh, where's my book? After that, I think I'm gonna pick up Miss Bunkle's Book by G.E. Stevenson. This is a book I got for Christmas, and it's a book that both my cousin and my sister actually all got. And my cousin already started it, so I feel like I need to get on the bandwagon and start it, and we're trying to get my sister to start it. So we'll all be reading this book around the same time. So since she's already started, she's getting ahead of me, I need to catch up. So I think this is what I'm gonna pick up next. After that, I don't know. Whatever comes up. I'll probably just keep reading the Queen's Thief series until I finish it because I'm in love. It's so good. So that is it for this video. Comment down below and let me know what you read in the month of December, what your favorite was. Also comment down below, let me know what buddy reading you're gonna be doing in the month of January or just in like some following months in the year of 2019. Yikes. I don't do a whole lot of buddy reading, but I am buddy reading Miss Bunkle's book. So if you wanna join in, I mean, hey, feel free to. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see y'all again in another one soon.